I want to talk for a second about one of the reasons it has been so hard for me psychologically to give up cooked food. I have always been a chef and even a baker. I baked my first loaf of bread at 10. It was a horrible disaster, but I was always fascinated. And then right out of high school, my first real job was at a fine, classic French-style bakery in Aspen, Colorado, Main Street Bakery. They're not there anymore, unfortunately. But the owner, Bill, was always amazingly kind and very generous with his knowledge of the art of baking. And that's one of the reasons I loved it so much. It was an art to me, and it still is. It is a beautiful knowledge about how to manipulate these different substances into something that is visually appealing as well as sensually appealing. And to learn that, to be able to make my own if I wanted. And I didn't even eat them all that much unless when I was working at the bakery, I always, had to test the products. But I then, after some life challenges, went on to go to the California Culinary Academy for baking and pastry. And I learned a lot about the chemistry, the science, the art of baking. And I love that. It's like watching someone make quilts, or watching someone put up a house with their bare hands. It is an art, and it is a lost art that is, slowly coming back now with the beautiful hipsters of the world, or whatever they're calling themselves at this point. But the bespoke generation is what I'm going to call it, and that is what will save the planet. Moving on. So that's why it's been so hard for me to give up baking as a hobby and potential profession, even after I gave up gluten, and now I've given up grains for a few years. I was still and do still try and bake grain-free bread, primarily out of buckwheat, for my daughter. And it's the same with cooking. I look at fine dining and classically trained chefs and people who know the art and the ways of working with food and spices and flavor and heat. That is amazing. It's beautiful. It's a dance, and I love it. But let's talk about the difference between chemistry and alchemy. When you are making cooked food, you are creating a beautiful dance of chemistry out in this world. And you give that up when you turn to a raw vegan lifestyle. You give up a lot of those chemical changes that happen to food that you no longer even eat. So it's kind of, which came first. But you are gaining the alchemy of changing your insides with the raw living food. And that is something that I'm really excited to explore more in the future.